54 years, Georgia and Florida have met on the neutral turf of Jacksonville's Gator Bowl. The unique atmosphere created by week-long parties and the excitement that comes from the natural rivalry of these neighboring SEC states have made this series one of the few classics of college football. Regardless of standing, each year brings an element of drama that makes every game meaningful. And this season is no different. For Gator faithful, it's the return of the Florida offense, Emmitt Smith. With him, the Gators were 5-0 on the fringe of the top 10 and dreaming of sugar. Without him, they struggle for every yard and are winless since the injury 4 weeks ago. Emmitt's presence today would mean renewed confidence and a chance to change the course of the season with a win over the hated Bulldogs. For Georgia, the trip to Jacksonville is like a mid-season bowl game, one players and fans point to all year. As usual, the Dogs are led by a pounding ground game. Worley, Henderson, Hampton, 5 yards and a cloud of dust. Again, Georgia stands in the thick of the SEC race. And again, the game in the Gator Bowl is a key one in the battle for the SEC crown. Live from the banks of the St. Johns River, TBS Sports continues its 5th season of SEC football coverage. Today, there will be 40,000 fans dressed in orange and blue, 40,000 clad in red and black as Jacksonville braces for the 67th meeting between the Georgia Bulldogs and the Florida Gators. Hello, everybody. Along with Tim Foley, this is Bob Neal at the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville, Florida. We've had serious weather here the last couple of days, but it's clearing up and sunshiny as the Georgia Bulldogs arrive at the Gator Bowl earlier this morning. Georgia comes to this game tied for the lead in the SEC. The Florida Gators have lost 3 in a row. They have not been able to win since they lost Emmitt Smith. But you see him in the black shirt. Emmitt Smith is back. He is healthy. He practiced all week long and will start today at tailback for the Florida Gators. So Emmitt Smith has been the big talk here from the Florida perspective. They know they've got a good defense, but they needed Emmitt Smith. And Tim Foley, my opening question is, how big is it for Florida that Emmitt is back?
Imagine the Los Angeles Dodgers without Oral Hershiser, or the Pips without Gladys Knight. Florida offense needs Emmitt Smith. He is just a big load carrier for them. They need his leadership. They need his ability on the field.
Now, the Georgia Bulldog defense has been less than the historical great units this year. Talk about them and stopping Florida with Emmitt back.
Well, Vince Dooley says this is the 2nd worst defense that he's had in 25 years. They're struggling, but I think they may have a chance to get healthy against this Florida offense. It's going to be 2 strong units against the 2 weaker units for these 2 football teams.
Now, when you flip-flop that and go to the Georgia offense and the Florida defense, you're talking about where the big boys play.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Georgia's got 4 running backs that average over 5 yards a carry. They will just hammer the ball at Florida. However, Florida is a defense that's rated number 2 in the nation defensively. They're great against the rush. Their weakness today may be the fact that Lewis Oliver, an All-American for Florida, will not play. Kerry Watkins, a cornerback, is doubtful. And so Georgia may have to throw the ball to whip this Florida team.
And we might mention, coming into this ball game, Georgia is still in the hunt for the SEC championship as you look at the standings of the top 5 teams, and technically Florida could still finish in a 5-2 tie should a lot of various things happen. Back here with the introductions and the kickoff in a moment, but now back to our studios in Atlanta to Craig Sager and the Old Milwaukee Insider Report. Everybody who's going to be at the Gator Bowl is already in here. 82,000, 41,000 Georgia fans, 41,000 Florida fans. The border war between the Bulldogs and the Gator, the 67th meeting between these 2 teams. The University of Georgia Bulldogs, led by Vince Dooley, the Dean of SEC football coaches. The Bulldogs have lost twice on TBS to South Carolina and Kentucky. They are a very strong offensive football team, still struggling for that Georgia spark that's been there so many times, but the Bulldogs remain in the hunt for the SEC Conference Championship. The Florida Gators, on the other hand, have struggled since they were beset by injuries to Emmitt Smith, to Stacy Simmons, even some defensive injuries, and they're playing banged up today. But Emmitt Smith is back. Stacy Simmons will be out for the entire year, and the Gators will be ready for the Vince Dooley Bulldogs, they hope. Dooley has had tremendous success with his Bulldogs against the University of Florida. Georgia has won 12 of the last 16 meetings, including a 23-10 victory over the Gators last year. And this used to be known as the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, but a lot more stringent requirements now. All of that party happens before they get into the Gator Bowl. The weather forecast, significant today, mostly sunny, 75 degrees. You see the winds 15 to 20. We understand they're up as high as 30 miles an hour. And Tim Foley, being the pilot you are, they said something like 31 knot winds coming in here today, which could certainly affect the air show that might have to happen here.
Well, we've turned this largest cocktail party into the world's largest brunch. You know, it's 12:30. These folks are just waking up as Florida enters the field.
The Florida Gators lost 3 in a row after the injury to Emmitt Smith. But as we told you, he is back today. The bad news for Florida is that Lewis Oliver, one of the best free safeties in America, is hurt and probably won't play much. And Kerry Watkins, their fine cornerback, did not even make the trip because of back spasms. Galen Hall, under a little bit of fire in the press and from some boosters about the Gators losing 3 in a row, nevertheless has maintained his poise, and most people feel he's going to be around for a while. It would be particularly helpful to the Florida program to get a victory here today. You're watching the SEC on TBS Sports.
SEC on TBS Sports is brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil with QSX for the maximum protection against sludge. By Buick and your Buick dealer. The Great American Road belongs to Buick. By Holiday Inn Hotels. There's no better way to take a time out. And by the U.S. Armed Forces. It's a great place to start.
Georgia won the toss, elected to defer to the second half, and will kick off to the Florida Gators here today. The deep backs for Florida are number 20, Tony Lomack, and number 9, Willie Snead, the starting wide receivers. Florida ranked very high nationally in kickoff returns, but it's deceiving because the man who got him up there is hurt. That was Stacy Simmons. Florida has not been very effective on returning kickoffs in their last few games. They'll try to do better today. The man who will be kicking off for Georgia is a junior from Cairo, Georgia, John Casey from Athens, Georgia, and he'll be kicking off. So as we get ready, let's listen to the crowd at the Gator Bowl. That's Willie Snead at the 20 and down at the 21-yard line. A 12-yard kickoff return, and Florida goes on offense from the 21-yard line. They will be led by number 19 at quarterback. That is Herbert Perry, a sophomore from Mayo, Florida. The quarterback situation difficult. We'll probably see both Perry and Morris. They have not found the answer at that position, but the big story is number 22 will be carrying it from the tailback position. A change at offensive guard and a struggling offensive line for the University of Florida. And we find that Emmitt Smith is not starting, but the true freshman Willie McClendon in there on the first play. We were told that Emmitt Smith would start and that he was healthy. We'll just keep our eye on it. Swing pass almost picked off by Georgia. Aaron Chubb came in from the left side and almost had goal lines and headlines in front of him.
Been talking to Lynn Amity, the offensive coordinator for Florida. He said they would work Emmitt Smith into the game. This is a ball that you just, as a quarterback, you have to get it over that initial rusher. You have to lay it up higher than you'd like to. That time, Herbert Perry just threw the ball a little bit too flat. Nice play by Aaron Chubb.
So they're starting with the 18-year-old freshman Willie McClendon at the tailback position, number 5, and Cedric Smith, number 39 at fullback. Here's McClendon, hard runner, nothing against the Georgia down linemen and linebackers, and Chubb with his second big play early on here, and it'll be third down long for Florida. Wycliffe Lovelace has played very well at defensive tackle. He's been banged up a little bit, but all the players are at this time of the year. A good solid core of linebackers. You're looking at the Florida linebackers, by the way. those guys aren't playing for Georgia, although I think sometimes Georgia wouldn't mind if they were. There's the Georgia secondary, and a key player there is strong safety Vince Guthrie. You'll see him at strong safety and playing up as part of that front for Georgia sometime during this game today. It is 3rd down 11. Gators opening drive. Perry, first time to throw. Can't find anybody. Dumps it to McClendon. Short of the first down to the 27-yard line. Bill Goldberg, number 95, with a tackle. Just to get you straight there, and the Georgia linebackers today will be Terry Webster and Demetrius Douglas and Mo Lewis and Chubb. Tardit, the designated pass rusher, is injured, but we probably will see him playing a lot today. 27 is Carswell. He is the punt returner for Georgia, and he will stand back at about his 35-yard line to take the punt from this man, Herbert Perry. Yes, that's the quarterback. The punting was so bad against Auburn that Auburn left 2 of their punters, Acosta Rua and Hank Roan, in Gainesville. Georgia almost got that punt. Here's Carswell. Down at the spot he caught the ball at the 38-yard line for the Bulldogs. Tim Falk made the stop, a 36-yard punt, a 2-yard return by Carswell. So now the Georgia Bulldogs get a chance on offense. Florida couldn't get anything going. Tim Worley, the main man for the Bulldogs, 14 rushing touchdowns. Wayne Johnson will start and play, they hope, most of the way at quarterback. You could see Greg Talley. Will Colley is a man under pressure as Georgia has a patchwork to some degree offensive line also. Tim will tell you more about that as the game develops. From the 38, 1st down 10, Georgia out of that familiar I formation. Here's Worley. To the 44-yard line, tripped up by 45, Pat Moore, the inside linebacker on the right side for the Gators. Number 2 ranked total defensive unit in the country. Trace Armstrong, Roth, and Weston are excellent. Armstrong and Weston both banged up and playing with some injuries today. There are the Florida linebackers who you saw playing with Georgia a short time ago. And Bill Lang playing at free safety in place of Lewis Oliver, who's hurt, and that also means that Lang had to move away from the strong safety position, and that secondary for Florida has had several adjustments coming into this game. 2nd down 3. Incomplete. It was tipped by 29, Owen Bartram. Intended receiver out there was Sean Hummings, number 6.
Vince Dooley asking the question, what do we throw it for? Why do we ever throw it? Vince likes to keep the ball on the ground, conservative in his 25 years as a head coach, and that's how you stay a head coach for 25 years at the same school. What George Hafner wants to do is throw the ball in running situations early on, run the ball in passing situations. Picks up his tendency.
3rd down, about 5 for the Bulldogs. In motion out of the backfield, Worley. Wayne Johnson. It's complete for the 1st down to the tight end, Troy Sadowski, and he is down at the 47-yard line of Florida. Bill Lang, the free safety with the stop. Gain of 8.
Good protection here by this Georgia offensive line as they wall out the 3 rushers from Florida. Johnson wanted Worley, who had checked down short over the middle, then went to Sadowski. Good job by the Georgia quarterback.
Well, Georgia does pick up the 1st down via the air route. 1st down 10 from the 47 of the Gators. Opening moments from the Gator Bowl, Florida, Georgia. Toss sweep, Worley. Got it outside. 1st down, Worley. They'll spot it at the 36-yard line. Richard Fain tripping him up after a gain of 11 yards.
Trace Armstrong has been a real asset to this Florida defense. Let's watch him here as he tries to pursue to the outside. You got to get containment there. Armstrong is in a great spot. No containment on the outside to turn that play back into him and the other pursuing Gators. Nice job there on the out by Fain, cutting that ball carrier down. Worley was on the way.
Double tight end, Sadowski and Warner in there for Georgia now. Going to run to the short side of the field. Worley, Florida packing it in over there, but Worley still gets about 5 yards. What a horse Tim Worley is. The junior from Lumberton, North Carolina, 6'2", 215 pounds, comes into this game today with 14 touchdowns, and he averages nearly 7 yards a carry.
He's not one of those guys that will avoid a tackler either. You know, he's got, in a sense, a Zonka style of running when he gets downfield, and like, you know, he picks out the defensive backs and tries to run them over.
2nd down 4 from the 30. Worley again, nothing this time though. making the penetration and the stop for Florida. Number 98, Godfrey Miles.
Let's look at the secondary now. Florida usually plays with a 7-man front, 4 defensive backs, but look how they've got everybody stacked in. They're going to stop the run. They're going to make Georgia throw the football, as Miles, who was almost playing a strong safety position, knifed in on the inside to make the stop.
3rd down 5. Last time Georgia got the first down via the passing route. Gonna try it again, but here's pressure. Johnson unloaded under heavy pressure up the middle. Pat Moore just shot right up in his face. He's the junior from Pensacola. Georgia's drive stalls.
Johnson trying to get outside containment here, but Moore is in his face before he has the time to even look downfield. Good job by Pat Moore, a walk-on player who started his first game that he ever lined up in a Florida uniform in as a true freshman.
So John Casey, who comes in to attempt the field goal, to be a 48-yard attempt. His longest on the year is 47. He's only 3 out of 8. The left footer hits it well. That's his longest of the year. Georgia takes a 3-0 lead. John Casey, the sophomore from Athens, hits a 48-yarder for the Bulldogs. And with 10:38 remaining in the first quarter, Georgia out in front early. You're watching the SEC on TBS Sports. A lot of folks have asked me how Tim Foley gets ready for the telecast. And now you know.
Hey.
It's the battle of the border here, Georgia and Florida. 67th meeting, 1988. Galen Hall trimmed down, but still a nervous sideline coach. He's very nervous about the punting game. There's the kickoff to Florida deep into the end zone. They'll bring it out to the 20. And that punting game, once again, is causing a problem for Florida early. Just a couple of first downs for Georgia, and they get 3. And it really hurt them against in a defensive struggle as it did against Auburn last week.
And in watching Perry before the game, he didn't look like he was rocketing the ball. They just went to him as a punter and out of desperation, really. Very disappointed about the performance last week of their kickers, because what a great game that was last week. Both the Florida defense and the Auburn defense, just both playing excellent football. Wish you could have seen that one.
First down 10 from the 20-yard line. Georgia leads 3-0. 10:38 to go first quarter. McClendon remains at tailback. Haven't seen Emmitt Smith yet. Under pressure, Perry dumps it off to the fullback. That's Cedric Smith. He runs it out to the 25-yard line. Cedric Smith doesn't catch the ball much. He had only 5 catches on the year coming into this game. And now the entrance into the ball game of number 22, Emmitt Smith.
And what the Florida play caller is trying to do here is they're trying to give Perry some short passes to throw to get on track, to develop a little bit of confidence. They need a passing game to augment number 22. He can't do it all.
This will be 2nd down 6 from the 24. Nation's leading rusher. Nothing happening on his first carry. Aaron Chubb playing a whale of a game at the outside linebacker position. He's the 6'4", 230-pound senior for Georgia, number 28.
Let's watch the big boys go against each other. There's Bill Goldberg, number 95, standing up the center, moving to the ball. Chubb, good job stuffing the hole. And then Demetrius Douglas coming in to finish him off. Fine interior line play by Georgia all year long. Giles, Goldberg, Wycliffe, Lovelace.
Florida with 2 receivers left, 1 right on 3rd and 4 from their own 26. Florida with no first downs so far today. Perry at the time swings it to Smith. Got a tough run to make here. But that's what he brings to you. He did not get there. But Emmitt Smith got a tough 4 yards after the catch. Goldberg hit him first. Then Hargett came over to finish him off, number 25. Short of the first down, but very close. They won't go for it here inside the 30.
And that's what you're going to see all afternoon long, I think, from Florida. They're trying to run some routes downfield, get those linebackers to drop in depth, and then dump it to Emmitt in the flat, give him some room to operate. You know, he's been off for several weeks. It's always tough coming back from an injury like that, especially when it's a knee for a running back.
Here's Perry filling in at the punting position. Not a pretty punt. Carswell bobbles it. It's loose down there. Florida ball at the 32-yard line.
Jimmy Spencer. Spencer, a backup cornerback, a Proposition 48 student with a big play early.
You know, Carswell's used to seeing spirals. Herbert Perry is kicking him knuckleballs, and he couldn't find the handle on that one. Squirted away from a big play for Florida. Let's see if Florida's offense can take advantage of this opportunity they have in this game.
Carswell's been a very sure-handed player, and now Kyle Morris, number 1, in at quarterback for Florida on the first down 10. Smith. Oh, Georgia's all over him. Smith may have gotten back to the line of scrimmage. Wycliffe Lovelace, the initial tackler. And here's the redshirt freshman, Kyle Morris. He's 6'3", 205 from Clinton, Florida. You see his numbers. He's been injured. He got injured at the same time in the Memphis State game as did Emmitt Smith.
A little bit more mobile than Herbert Perry. He has the ability to move around in that pocket if the protection happens to break down. But I don't think the Florida coaches are happy with either one of their quarterbacks at this point.
7:51 to go first quarter. Georgia leading it 3-0. Second down 10. There's Kyle Morris with an audible. Time to throw. Almost picked off. He overthrew Willie Snead. Covering on the play, Ben Smith. Number 26, the junior from Warner Robins, the transfer from Northeastern Oklahoma, and Georgia's best defensive back.
Let's watch Willie Snead working against Ben Smith. Kyle Morris does a nice job looking him off. Willie Snead has sneaked in behind Ben Smith, but the ball is thrown to the outside. Got a chance. Smith comes back underneath. Snead comes back underneath, knocks the ball away from Ben Smith.
Third down 10, Florida now. Can Florida capitalize on the fumble by punt receiver Chuck Carswell? So far, no yardage on 2 plays at the Georgia 33. Morris again. Nothing happening there. Intended for Ernie Mills. Number 14, Mills playing with a sore hand. But the quarterback pressure, Demetrius Douglas, 53, right in the face of Kyle Morris.
And that time, Ernie Mills had it over the middle, Bob. They were playing man under 2 deep zone behind it. Ernie Mills had worked inside the person that was covering him and was open. Morris just didn't have time to get him the football.
It would have been a 50-yard field goal attempt, but Galen Hall deciding not to go for that long field goal. Instead, they're going to line up here for a punt. Remember, Perry, the quarterback, is the punter. Georgia had looked like a mismatch with number of men out there, maybe 12 men. They called timeout anyway. Tim, are we going to go away for a commercial? We'll come right back. I want your opinion. Could we be watching something funny coming from the Gators here? We'll be right back.
86.
St. John's River, Gator Bowl, Jacksonville, Florida. Georgia out to a 3-0 lead, but Florida about to punt. Georgia called a timeout. Quarterback Herbert Perry does the punting.
Obviously an added dimension if your punter as a quarterback can throw the ball.
He's trying to punt it out of bounds or short of the goal line. Doesn't do it. I didn't quite understand the strategy there. They gained 13 yards on it, and Georgia will start from their own 20, first down 10. He didn't even angle that ball for the sideline.
Well, I think he was trying to.
He made an accident,
doesn't
hit it off the middle of his foot.
Right, I'm not sure that Galen understands that either. And Spencer was almost down there in time to catch the ball. Auburn did a great job last week of keeping Florida pinned up inside the 20. Their special teams did a fine job of downing the ball for their punter, Schulman.
Hampton and Henderson in the backfield for Georgia on this possession. First and 10 from the Bulldog 20. Wayne Johnson throwing out to the corner. It's complete to Marshall, and he gets it to the 29-yard line. Arthur Marshall is a 5'11" redshirt freshman.
And this is what Georgia has to do. This is what, against South Carolina, I expected Georgia to do. Throw the ball to the outside in a hurry to try to spread out that defense a little bit, because, you know, things get awfully congested in there when you cram 8 men between the tackles. Nice throw by Wayne Johnson.
Second down and 1 from the 29. To Henderson, the fullback, but he's running against what the Florida people call the Great Wall, and 2/3 of it, Weston and Roth made the stop. Weston is 68, Roth is 96.
And these guys are something. They go head-to-head with anybody. Roth just handles the center and makes the play. Weston right there, Armstrong not far behind. And Trace Armstrong has really made a difference to this defensive line. We'll talk about it after the next play.
Rondy Weston's a senior from Belgrade, Florida. He's playing with a sore shoulder today, by the way. 3rd down 1 Bulldogs now. And the power offensive alignment. Henderson in motion. Here's the pitch to Worley. Florida strings it out. Worley doesn't get there. That Florida defense played so well against Auburn. Was there again, and it was Jeff Roth again. Knifing through for the stop, and Georgia will have to punt it away.
Whenever you've got somebody like Trace Armstrong that comes in that has the ability that he has and the work ethic, it helps to make other people better. He is, along with Nicoletto and more, really a leader on this defensive football team in terms of demonstrating how hard you should work to win.
Joey Hester punts for Georgia. It was Terrence Barber, number 3 back. Well, they almost got it and knocked Hester down. Penalty marker is down. It's out of bounds at the 38-yard line, but there's a penalty marker back at the 14-yard line. Florida ran into Hester. He got off a 34-yard punt. It was number 41, John Spirito, who ran into him, I believe.
Before Florida played, as we watched the replay of Spirito running into the kicker here, and he just kind of nudged him. He didn't really take a good angle. I mean, if you're going to go after it, go after it. But before the Florida State game last year, Florida hadn't blocked a punt in 10 years. Now they've blocked a punt 5 out of the last 10 games they played. It's become a part of their offense almost. It's an aggressive weapon for them. That time just not a wise play.
Blew up in their face, so to speak. 32-yard line of Georgia, 1st down 10. 5:24 to go first quarter. Bulldogs leading 3-0. Wayne Johnson. Cut it upfield. And he's down at the 39. Johnson, a long, tall drink of water at 6'4", is not a nifty runner, but he can move a little bit. He gets a few yards there.
Show you John Thomas working against Richard Fain on the outside. Lang hanging in the middle, helping on the double team. Fain reacting on the break. Nothing there. Now, of course, Wayne Johnson has tucked the ball and begin to run upfield.
And he gets a gain of 6 yards. 2nd down 4 from the 39. Hampton started to the left, went to the right, and by the time he changed direction, there were 4 Gator jerseys back there to say how do you do to the sophomore from Houston, Texas.
And this is exactly what it looked like last week in the Florida-Auburn game for both teams. Just both defenses just really going after each other, really charging upfield. 2 talented defenses turned loose. The Florida defense, they've got a lot of character. They're going to hang with it. They know they've got to carry their offense. They know they've got to provide the opportunities to score points.
Now Worley and Henderson in for Georgia behind quarterback Wayne Johnson. Johnson 2 out of 4 for 18 yards throwing it. This is 3rd down 7. Shovel pass. Couple of yards, not much more to fullback Keith Henderson. Florida defense holds again. So after Georgia had the Florida defense came in there, Tim, this just emphasizes your point. They stopped Georgia. Then they roughed the punter. They go back out there, give them 3 more downs, and now the punting situation again. Can't ask any more than that. Florida player injured. It is Rondy Weston who is down on the field. He came into this game with a sore shoulder, did not practice all week.
He's been playing all season with a sore shoulder. Armstrong has got a knee problem. But as you mentioned earlier, Bob, by this time of the season, you've got something wrong with you, unless you're not playing. If you're not playing, you're usually pretty healthy.
Rondy Weston is a key player there. His backup's Tony McCoy. We'll check on his condition right after we take a timeout. 3:41 to go. First quarter, Georgia leading. You're watching the SEC on TBS Sports. That's some of the pregame atmosphere as these Gators and Bulldogs all came in to get ready for this ball game. It is something out in the parking lots prior to this football game. They're all in here now, though, 82,000. The report on Rondy Weston, for all of you Gator fans who are holding your breath, is that he got up, came off the field himself jogging, and looks to be okay. It's a punting situation for Georgia. We'll keep our eye on Rondy Weston. We think he's all right. Joey Hester into punt. They came after it again, didn't interfere this time, and Hester tattooed it. Barber at the 21. Good pressure and then good coverage by Georgia. Kevin Brown made the stop. There's Rondy Weston. So he looks to be all right. 42-yard punt, 4-yard return. And Florida will have it first and 10 at the Florida 23.5-yard line.
Talking about injuries, Terrence Barber, who just returned that punt for Florida. Late in the Auburn game, Auburn intercepted a Florida pass. Barber brought him down and got his hand caught in somebody's face mask, and he just got out of the hospital, had an infection in his finger.
Emmitt Smith has had 3 carries for 4 yards. Here's his 4th carry. Not much. 3 or 4 yards off the left side. Demetrius Douglas with the tackle. Talk about this Georgia defense. They changed defensive alignments this year, but their philosophy remains much the same. And a lot of people think you live and die by the blitz. Well, look, in '85, Georgia didn't blitz at all. Not one time won the game. Blitzed several times in '86. 3 TD passes to Ricky Nattiel off blitzes. '87, Georgia went away from it again. Ended up with 7 sacks.
And so what you can anticipate from Georgia is a non-aggressive, in terms of calls, a non-blitz game.
2nd down 6 from the 28. Here's the pitch to Emmitt Smith. Driving hard, but short of the first down off the left side again. Terry Webster with the stop.
This is Bill Lewis, and he's the designer of this Georgia defense and the man that makes things happen. He makes the calls on the sideline, talking to Dale Strom there, the inside linebacker coach, signaling in the play. It's been a tough year for him and his Georgia defenders. A much maligned defense. They're just a little short on talent this year.
Well, they're called on here on a 3rd down 1. Florida has it at the 33. Emmitt Smith driving. 1st down, Florida. So Emmitt Smith has now carried the ball 6 times. He has only 15 yards, but that was a big carry.
And he's still warming up. He's still getting his feet under him. It's going to take him a while. He hasn't cut it loose yet, and Galen Hall knows that. Poor Galen. He starts the season. He's got Stacy Simmons, a guy that caught touchdown passes for 77 yards, 93 yards, ran a kickoff back 85 yards. He gets hurt. Emmitt gets hurt. And then the second running back gets hurt. We lost a lot of folks.
1st and 10 from the 35, Florida. Quick opener to the fullback. That's 38, Willie McGrady. And McGrady drives it out to the 40. Now, there's something that Emmitt Smith's addition can help you a little bit, I would think, Tim. Just knowing that he's in the backfield could make your fullback a little more effective.
Exactly. Just like it's hard for some people to chew gum and walk at the same time. You know, when you have to think about 2 things, if an offense has 2 weapons, it's always a concern for you, and you can't just isolate on that one factor, the Emmitt Smith factor. That's why they need to throw the ball some.
2nd down 5 from the 40. Florida trails 3-0. Here's the delay to Smith, but Georgia is there. No gain at all. Several white jerseys over there. You see Webster getting up. Number 59, Norman Cowens getting up. He's the redshirt freshman. Plays on the running downs today instead of Tarditz, who's playing with an injury.
See, when you go to reserves, you're not only getting less ability, but you may also be getting less knowledge of your game plan, less assignment knowledge, and so you're going to have more mental breakdowns that causes frustration also.
Georgia leads 3-0 with only 45 seconds to go in the 1st quarter. 3 wideouts in there for Florida on 3rd down 5. Kyle Morris. It's complete to Emmitt Smith for the 1st down on 2nd effort to the 46-yard line. Demetrius Douglas wrapped up little Emmitt Smith, but Smith with those great legs got the 1st down.
But he's got tremendous leg drive. Georgia secondary does a nice job isolating their men, tucking up. Morris gets the ball off just in time. Demetrius Douglas is there. No 1st down. Oop! Emmitt Smith dragged him forward 2 yards, 1st down.
Already changing the nature of the game a bit as Smith was involved in both of the Florida 1st downs on this drive. This time 1st down at the 46-yard line. Play fake to McClendon, who's in there for Smith. Morris under pressure. He's got the quick feet, though. That's what he gives them. Out of bounds at the 43-yard line. Kyle Morris. A nifty job of avoiding the Georgia pressure. And that'll be the last play of the 1st quarter. A Florida 1st down. Georgia leading by 3. Jacksonville, Florida. Start of the second quarter. The Georgia-Florida battle of 1988 at the Gator Bowl. 82,000 here. Beautiful weather today after some very, very turbulent weather. There were tornado watches around this part of the country last night on the banks of the St. Johns River. So out to the 40 inside Georgia territory to the 43-yard line of Georgia. Florida turns it around, goes right to left now. Trailing 3-0. Willie McClendon. He is hauled down by Mo Lewis, number 57 of Georgia.
McClendon really took a beating last week against Auburn. He had 20 rushes for 13 yards and just had a real tough time for a true freshman. Ideally, the Florida coaches would have liked to redshirt Willie McClendon, but they got into a situation when Williams got hurt and Smith went down. They had to use him. Not only use him, they had to go to him as a starter.
Second down 6 from the 39-yard line. Gators trail 3-0. Hand off to the fullback. The ball was taken out of his hands, but the officials say it was after the whistle. Hiawatha Berry's the man with the ball. Norman Cowens made the tackle. Belongs to Florida. That was McGrady carrying the ball.
Let's watch it again. They try to get that defensive line going with McGrady. Still got the ball. He's down, and he pulls it out once he's down. But they try to get that defensive line going with Emmitt Smith and just trap it right behind. A quick hitter back behind the nose guard. This time Goldberg did a good job staying at home.
Third down 6. Morris. Incomplete. And boy, was that typical of the Florida receivers this year. Willie Snead couldn't grab it. They have not been able to catch the ball in important times. And that's not just Snead, but also Lomack and Mills and the rest of them.
Coming from the outside, Mo Lewis coming from the outside. Chubb trailing. Snead takes it across the middle. Pass interference on the umpire. Can you throw a flag on the referee?
Yeah, we get to name him. You know, whenever an umpire's in the way, that's Pete Williams. Now, Perry trying to angle this one out of bounds. How well did he do? Not great. He got it out of bounds at the 19. So the punting game is still hurting Florida. And you hear the boos. They're booing Perry, the quarterback, who's called on to punt. They left Acosta Rua at home. Georgia will have it at their 19. You're watching the SEC on TBS Sports. Second quarter, 13:27 remaining. Georgia leading at 3-0 in possession of the ball just inside the Georgia 19-yard line. Hand off Worley. Out to the 25-26-yard line, hit by Bill Lang. Remember, for Florida's defense, Oliver is hurt. Their fine free safety. Kerry Watkins, starting cornerback, also not here.
And there's where that Gator defense ranks nationally. Second nationally in total defense, led only by Auburn. And what a game last week those two had.
Rondi Weston, by the way, was shaken up earlier, is back in for Florida. It is second down 3, Georgia. Pitch to Worley. Student body left. Worley close to the first down. He was hit first by 90 Huey Richardson, and then Pat Moore.
The strength of the Florida defense is in those front three. Roth is playing better than he's ever played. Same with Weston. The addition of Armstrong was just a godsend. And then you've got Richardson on the outside, who moved from an open linebacker position to over the tight end. He's made that adjustment. A couple of just real hard blue-collar workers in the middle, and Moorer and Nicoletto. And then an All-American and free safety, and a real reliable, strong safety in Bill Lang.
Third down, less than 1, Georgia. It's close as Johnson keeps the ball. They'll mark it. I think he got out across the 30 for the first down. It is a Bulldog first down. And by the way, play before that one, Tim Worley went over the 1,000-yard mark. As tailback, he's joined a list of very few Georgia running backs who have made that list, led by Herschel Walker, who did it an unbelievable 3 times, and Willie McClendon. There's one for Florida here, but everybody remembers McClendon back in '78. The great Frankie Sinkwich add Worley's name to that group. From the 31, first down. Worley gets about 3.5 to the 34. Georgia just pounding away. Mark Murray with a stop for Florida.
And this is what Georgia does best. I mean, you know, those offensive linemen in there, you know, they don't let them use any deodorant. Those guys come to the game and they bring their lunch bucket and they come to work and they're just going to try to drive you off the ball. And let's not be pretty. Let's not be fancy.
No deodorant.
But they're going to have to go to work, I think, on the Florida corner. We'll talk about that in a second.
How about tight ends? Can they use deodorant? There are 2 of them in there now. Hand off. Worley. Right at the first down marker, tackled by Tim Paulk. And that Georgia offensive line, it's been maligned a bit, too, as not playing as well as they expected it to, and they've had some changes, but look at them this time.
Well, Lamont Tellis was injured. They had to move number 75, Scott Adams, to guard. You see Kurt Mull, who's just Mr. Consistency in there. Ellis sticking his nose, cuts in there, cuts Moorer down, and then Worley just drives it in. See, the problem with Worley is he's quick enough to make you miss, but he's powerful enough to run you over. You can't really dig in when he's coming at you, but if you stay light-footed, he'll just put you on your back.
Henderson and Worley in the backfield. First down 10 from the 41. Georgia leading 3-0, 10:57 to go, second quarter. Here's the flea flicker. Back to Johnson. But when the ball got there, so did the Gators. Tim Paulk, Trace Armstrong. Paulk's 99 and Armstrong's 93. Helmets flying, and the Gator defense rose to the occasion on the Georgia trick play, a loss of 9.
A good idea. This is a good idea, but it doesn't work. The Florida secondary stayed back. They weren't sucked up, and you're right. Armstrong almost beat the ball back there. See, what Georgia does best is just knock you out of there, knock you out of there. You know, when they try to do a fancy dance, it just doesn't work well for them.
Second down, 17 from the 34. Vince is on the sideline scratching that from the playbook right now. Henderson tripped up at the 35 by Tim Paulk, who's played himself a whale of a game, the redshirt freshman thus far.
Now, Lewis Oliver, their All-American weak safety, is out of there. They moved Bill Lang over to weak safety, put in Curtis White at strong safety. Kerry Watkins is also missing at corner. They replaced Kerry Watkins with Kurt Young, a walk-on defensive back. A walk-on defensive back that's 5'8" and 176 pounds. As you see Oliver looking on. He's out there on his own. And before the afternoon's over, Georgia's got to try to exploit that area.
Hampton and Henderson in the backfield on third down 16 for Wayne Johnson. Incomplete off the hands of number 9, John Thomas. Neither one of these teams have the receivers they need. You were just talking about Kurt Young. He was tested there. He's the little 5'8" cornerback, but John Thomas couldn't hold on to it. The highest-ranked receiver in the conference on either one of these football teams is John Thomas, and he ranks 19th in the league.
In the SEC. So passing is not a forte of either one of these teams this year.
Joey Hester. Here comes that Florida pressure. Lomack watches it sail over his head. My, oh my. He catches it and goes back inside the 10 and out of bounds at the 9. That was a cannon shot from Hester. Wind aided, I might add. 55 yards and a loss of 1. Well, as a matter of fact, the wind's kind of swirling. It may have been just the foot power of former quarterback Joey Hester. You're watching the SEC on TBS Sports. Multi-directional winds. It's going every direction. Looked like that punt, Tim, was into the wind.
Actually into the wind, but what happened was when the ball was punted, that flag was lying flat. Now, I want to know how Vince Dooley gets... How does he shut off the wind? I mean, that's going to be an interesting thing. Here's Joey Hester. He's the one that hit that punt.
Well, punting, once again, has played a big role in this game. Florida's punting game failing them miserably, as it did last week. First down 10 from the 9. Gators, 9:18 to go first half. Florida trailing 3-0. Emmitt Smith picking his way. Got about 5 yards. Terry Webster makes a stop for Georgia. The wind, by the way, up to as much as 30 miles an hour here in Jacksonville. A cold front came through overnight, and the wind is swirling. It's multi-directional. Sometimes it's the back. As you see now, it's blowing literally right across the field. But a definite factor today. Second down 4 from the 15. Lomack in motion. Emmitt Smith tries it again. Look at the talent. First down. Oh, it changes Florida, no question about it. 9 carries, 28 yards for Emmitt Smith so far. Gives them something where they had nothing going.
It'll change any team, Bob. Emmitt Smith is the type of player that comes along once a decade. You know, for some schools, they've never had an athlete like this. It's got the quick feet, the power. He's diminutive, small, but he packs a lot of power in those legs. Great leg drive.
Averaged 125 yards per game before his injury. Smith again, following his blocker, got about 4 or 5 over on the right side this time. Remember, the guards for Florida have been flipped around. Stroweski's over on the left side. Bromley has moved from center to the right guard. So we talked about Georgia's line being moved around. Florida, the same kind of situation as McClendon goes in to give Smith a breather.
Georgia's movement was as a result of injuries. Florida's movement is as a result of frustration. They just haven't been getting good play out of those positions. They bring in Chris Bromley to start at right guard.
Brother of Phil, former all-conference center for Florida. Here's Willie McClendon. Got a couple of tough yards. First down stick is out there at the 31-yard line, and McClendon goes down about the 27.
A half a step can make a big difference. You see Smith sticking it up in there. McClendon breaks it to the outside, but Demetrius Douglas, whereas Emmitt Smith might have run through that tackle, slowed down McClendon enough so his teammates could get there. 3rd down 4 now. Florida 2 out of 6 on 3rd down conversions. Kyle Morris 1 out of 4 for only 7 yards throwing the ball today. Perry started. Morris came in to replace him. Picked off by Georgia. Number 53 is Demetrius Douglas. He has it back here at the 36-yard line. Nice job by Douglas, the junior from College Park, Georgia. His 2nd interception on the year. In our circle is Demetrius Douglas, who has replaced Brent Collins at the left inside linebacker due to an injury to Collins. Good read on the quarterback. He gets steps, falls out of your picture, but look at Kyle Morris. He is just hammered in on Snead. He's looking at him all the way. He never did look off Douglas, and it's that backside linebacker that's going to kill you when you're a quarterback reading your vision. Georgia leads by 3, 6:55 to go in the first half. First down at the 35 of Florida. Worley to the 30. Florida's defense constantly called on to make up for the lack of production and the mistakes of the Florida offense all year long, and now they're staring it right in the face again. Second down 5. Double tight ends, 87 Sadowski, 83 Warner in there for Georgia. Henderson, Worley in the backfield. That's Marshall in motion. Worley. Look at him drive. What strength to the 23-yard line. First down. Bill Lang finally brings down Worley. And you don't want to handle this guy one-on-one. If you're a safety, you see this hole open up, and you see this big monster step over the line, I'll tell you what. At that point, you say, give me a move, I'll take it. but not Worley. He just kind of runs right over people, and what a powerful running back he is. 6 minutes to go in the half. Georgia leads 3-0, threatening again after the interception. First down at the 23, and now Ellis and Worley are the backs. There's Thomas in motion. There's Worley again. Inside the 20 to the 19, and Worley with 12 carries and 55 yards on the day. Worley and Emmitt Smith are 1-2 in rushing. Against a team that gives up an average of 2.6 yards per rush. You see Worley, when it's not there on the outside, he's not messing around anymore. Here I come, fellas, and he takes it upfield with enthusiasm. Second down 5 from the 18-yard line. 8 men on the line of scrimmage for Florida. The penetration is there, and that defensive front made that play. Trace Armstrong led the way and nailed Worley before he could get his 450 cubic inch engine into full speed and high gear. Let's watch this happen up front. Number 93, the left of your screen, is Armstrong. Steps down, slices to the inside, locates the football, has the quickness and foot speed to change his direction and make the play. And obviously somebody missed a block there in the Georgia offensive front. Both Goldberg and, Roth and Armstrong were there.
Third down 10 at the 23 now. There's that Florida defense being tested again. Wayne Johnson looking. Touchdown, what a catch by John Thomas. Lane got lost back there, but ended up screening Thomas. He caught it anyway. Give Wayne Johnson credit for patience and poise. He waited, he pumped, he sprinted, and he found John Thomas. That's only the second touchdown pass of the year for Wayne Johnson. Coming into this game, Worley had thrown more touchdown passes. Point after is good. Georgia has taken a 10-0 lead with 4 minutes, 31 seconds remaining in the half. The key play there, though, the interception by Demetrius Douglas. You're watching the SEC on TBS Sports.
Let's watch Wayne Johnson's second touchdown pass of the season develop here. Takes the ball from the center, Todd Wheeler. Drops back, and he wants Thomas right now, but Richard Fain is in his face. Lang had snuck up. Thomas fell behind him. Now hold it right here. Now you see Lang approaching Thomas. Now he's got a decision to make. He's got to turn and locate the ball. Do I turn to my right or my left? He decides to turn to his right. If he'd have turned to his left, the ball would have hit him in the face. Good catch by John Thomas, and as Bob pointed out, good patience by Wayne Johnson.
John Thomas' second touchdown reception of the year, and that's right, Georgia fans. The Bulldogs have scored via the touchdown pass.
And that's only, up until that point, Florida had only given up 7 touchdown passes in the last 104 quarters. That's almost 15 games.
Remember that Kerry Watkins and Lewis Oliver aren't back there in the secondary for Florida. Georgia is not forgetting it, that's for sure. First down was a third down on the touchdown pass. Lomax from the 3. Got a pretty good job of returning it out to the 23. That was a dangerous return. 20 yards, and Florida now trailing 10-0 with 4:24 remaining in the first half. And there's a scoring drive, only 35 yards. Demetrius Douglas intercepted at the 35 of Florida, and then Thomas caught the touchdown pass.
And that Bulldog is smiling. Can you tell? See the grin?
Georgia was favored by 3 points coming into this game. They lead it by 10. Florida sending in late fullback Willie McGrady, number 38, going in there. Also, Ernie Mills is in at one of the split ends for Kyle Morris. He threw the interception. They're just keeping it vanilla. McGrady with the handoff, Webster with the tackle.
Vince Dooley is 16-7-1 against these Florida Gators. But when you come into this stadium here, there's no telling what can happen. You can go through all the opens in the world and why this team should win, why that team should win, but there's so much emotion involved in this game, it doesn't make any difference.
Second down 8 from the 25. On the option, Morris pitches to Emmitt Smith, who has to reverse his field, and he's thrown for a loss back there at the original line of scrimmage. Hiawatha Barry will get credit for the tackle. Penalty marker is down. Florida seems to think that penalty's against Georgia. There's the referee, the man in the white hat today. Our referee is Dick Burleson. He'll give us the details on this.
Red ball foul, personal foul against the defense, automatic first down.
Okay, watch number 53, Demetrius Douglas. See if he was involved in that.
Smith reverses his field, nothing there. he decides, I'm not going to get anywhere going back the other way, and I'm going to just get what I can get now. The play was over. He was down, and that was just an unnecessary shot by Demetrius. Sure, he'd like to have that back.
A big break for Florida. They move it out here to the 38-yard line. First down, 10. Trailing 10-0. And an opportunity. Play fake. The pressure. Morris goes down at the 24-yard line. Norman Cowens was there. These Florida quarterbacks are just getting pounded again. A loss of 14 yards.
And he's looking for the tight end. You see Mark McGriff, who has 15 catches already this year, coming across, but Morris has no time to set up as Cowens just whipped his way around that Florida offensive tackle and didn't give Kyle Morris time to brush his teeth, get ready for that date at all. He was there.
Out on their right side, Mike Guthrie's hurt. Tarditz is playing hurt. Cowens had to fill in, and he's rising to the occasion today. Second down 23 now. They go back to Emmitt Smith, but he's got a long way to go. Doesn't get much. Out to the 27-yard line, tripped up by Demetrius Douglas. 2:25 to go in the half, and the Georgia defense has been impressive thus far here today.
I was talking to Joe Tereshinski, an assistant coach for Georgia, about Cowens, and Cowens keeps a pet boa constrictor in his room. And his roommate didn't like that. It was Eric Johnson, and one night the...
was Eric Johnson?
Yeah, right. Was is correct. Because one night the boa constrictor got out, and and when Eric Johnson woke up, it was in bed with him.
2:08 to go in the half. Georgia leads it 10-0. Third down 20 Florida from the Florida 28-yard line. Georgia with a 35-yard touchdown drive, a 22-yard touchdown pass from Wayne Johnson to John Thomas, and a 48-yard field goal from John Casey. Morris going to try it again. It is complete, short of the first down. However, it is out here at about the 38-yard line. Kirkpatrick, the backup tight end, made the reception, but it was far short of the first down. Chuck Carswell will go back to take the punt of Perry. The combined quarterbacks are now 4 of 8 for about 29 yards and 1 interception for Florida. Perry been called on to do the punting again today. He struggled there. I mean, struggling mightily, as you can see. Out of bounds at the 30-yard line. It wasn't pretty, but it did carry 33 yards. And for today, not that bad. 1:55 remaining in the first half. You're watching the SEC on TBS Sports.
I'm on it. I got to go.
Georgia leads at 10-0 with 1:55 remaining, and yes, that is an alligator there in the nice dental structure of that young lady.
Anti-plaque chewing gum.
Hampton to the 35-yard line, giving Tim Worley a little bit of a rest. Worley had 13 carries for 52 yards, and Hampton now with his first gets 5 on it. And Hampton coming off that injury, getting better, wouldn't you say?
Oh, no question about it. Isn't it something that you can go to somebody like Rodney Hampton to give somebody a rest? I mean, that guy can carry the mail for anybody in the country.
Yeah, but he only averages nearly 6 yards a carry. Here's Hampton, number 7. Struggles forward for about 3 to the 38-yard line. Joey Nicoletto making the stop for the Florida defensive unit.
Actually, I think Hampton's faster than Worley is, and maybe just a little bit quicker. Worley runs with more power, better up inside. But in the open field, both of them are awfully difficult to bring down.
Hampton is 6 feet tall, 215. Worley 6'2", 215, but that's very deceptive. Worley definitely the bigger man in terms of his power running. Johnson tried to keep it down the line, got close to the first down. This will depend on the spot. Coming up at halftime, Craig Sager's in Atlanta with scores and highlights from other college games. We'll hear from the Georgia Redcoat Marching Band and the Florida Pride of the Sunshine Band. It's all coming up at halftime. They say yes, first down. Check that. It is not first down. That was timeout being signaled. Florida called it. The ball is short of the first down by about the length of the football. The stick is right at the 40-yard line, and the ball is just inside the 40. So it's a fourth down and short situation. You see the distance there required, about the length of the ball.
Well, Georgia's got to punt the ball here. 37 seconds left to go in the half.
By the way, often a team will come out there and line up, go to a long count, take the 5 yards, even if they need to, try to draw the defensive team off. But I think you're right, Tim, with only 37 seconds left. David Smith and Eddie Fuller, players of the week in the SEC. We saw, of course, Eddie Fuller with a spectacular game for LSU in our telecast last week against Ole Miss, and Quentin Riggins in that Auburn-Florida game last week.
Now, they could have given that most valuable player award to the whole Auburn defense. It would be hard to single out anybody because they all were so effective.
Number 20, Tony Lomack. Number 1 is Joey Hester. Lomack averages only about 5 yards per punt return. Here they come. Florida trying to block it, but Hester gets away another one. Had a 55-yarder earlier. The fair catch at the 32-yard line with 31 seconds remaining in the half, and Florida will have a chance to get a couple of plays off. 38-yard punt by Hester.
The last week, nothing went right for the Florida offense. They were substituting players to try to bring in plays. They tried to kind of break down their offense to where they'd have certain players in there to run a certain type of offense because they didn't have people that knew the whole offense, and they just had a difficult time all the way around from the huddle to the line of scrimmage.
So Morris was injured in that Memphis State game. He's been out. Practiced some this week. Perry started but didn't stay in there very long. Morris with the quicker feet, but he's been struggling too today. Chance to throw it. It is complete, short of the first down, out of bounds at the 40-yard line to Mark McGriff, the tight end. Last 2 receptions have been by Florida tight ends. 24 seconds remaining in the half.
And that makes 24, it brings the total to 24 of the catches by the tight ends for a Florida offense. Last year, all year long, Florida tight ends caught 6 passes. Lynn Amity trying to make that position a focal point in the offense, because it's obviously the shortest distance between the quarterback and a gain. Tight end can curl over the middle, find an open seam.
That's McGriff there in the slot for Morris on second down 2. To Emmitt Smith. Change of speed. Get out of bounds for the first down. Stop the clock at the 44-yard line with 16 seconds left in the half. Georgia leading 10-0.
Well, sometime during this football game, I'm sure we're going to see how fast Ernie Mills can run. I mean, Ernie Mills has the speed. Lomack can run. Snead can run. Terrence Barber's kind of a possession receiver, and Florida, before it's over, is going to have to try to loosen up this Georgia defense, drive those cornerbacks off a little bit.
First down from the 44-yard line of Florida. Throw out to the right side. That is 39 Cedric Smith. Takes it near the first down. Clock down to 7, 6, 5. Florida has timeouts remaining. They will stop the clock with 5 seconds left. Ben Smith slow to get up for Georgia.
Big hit by Ben Smith, and he has had a shoulder problem. He has missed practice this year due to it, and he may have re-injured it there because he came up after Cedric Smith.
Steve Harmon looks like he's coming in for, you see Ben Smith holding that shoulder there. We have 5 seconds remaining here in the half. There's the next week scheduled in the Southeastern Conference. We have yet to select our game for televising next week. We're not sure where we will be, but the games are Georgia Auburn, Florida at Kentucky, LSU at Mississippi State over in Starkville. Alabama gets a breather in terms of the conference schedule after playing LSU today with Southwest Louisiana. Tennessee's at Ole Miss, and Vanderbilt plays at West Point. And we'll have the announcement for you on Sunday or Monday. Game time 12:30 Eastern time. So Air Foley has to be all fueled up and ready to go to virtually any place.
It was great last night. I was in the motorhome out there with my little girl Katie, and it was raining, and it sounds so nice when it rains on the motorhome.
Here in the parking lot of the Gator Bowl. That's very convenient. for you. 4 seconds in the half. Morris will just air it out. Snead is down there. And it was 25 Hargett who was closest to the ball. That'll be the last play of the half. Well, we know Morris can throw it that far. Be interesting to see if Florida tries to go deep a little bit more in the second half. They're trailing Georgia 10-0 at halftime of the Gator Bowl. Ready to start the second half from the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville, Florida. Georgia leading by a score of 10-0. Georgia won the toss, elected to defer to the second half, so Georgia will have the football. And the bad news for Florida is the 2 deep backs for Georgia are none other than number 7 Hampton. He averages 32 yards per kickoff return, and number 38 Worley, he averages 31.5. John David Francis for the kickoff. Worley at the 7. Look at that, out to the 34-yard line. Below his average, 27 yards on the return by Worley. Tripped up by 29 Owen Bartrip of Florida. So Georgia has a 10-point lead and the ball in decent field position to start this drive out at the 34-yard line.
Well, that was a courageous move by Florida. When you see 2 guys back there like Hampton and Worley and you're kicking it into the wind, that's what the squib kick was invented for. But they're in good shape right now.
10-0 Georgia leading. With that lead, Georgia can continue pounding away with that running game, and that's what they do. Worley. They say his knee touchdown at the 42-yard line. He ran over little 5'8", 175-pound cornerback Kurt Young, the walk-on who's playing in place of the injured Kerry Watkins.
And a good job that time, Bob, by Scott Adams and Kurt Mull, allowed Worley to get it to the outside. They've got Richard Payne playing cornerback to the wide side of the field. Kurt Young is back into the sideline.
Second down 2. Splitting out wide to the near side, John Thomas. Tight end Sadowski switches to the right side. They run behind him. Worley just blowing Gators down. Look at that. It took 5 of them to get him down. But not until he had the first down to the 47-yard line. There's Uga, the Georgia mascot. And yes, that is a smile.
Out by Miles.
To be a dog dentist, you could make a lot of money on Uga.
You better be pretty brave. You can lose a lot of fingers. Worley with 65 yards and 15 carries today. Just another day at the office for the junior from Lumberton, North Carolina. Maybe a professional ball player pretty soon. Down hard right at midfield. Worley was hit first by Rondi Weston.
Worley carry, caught by Weston.
From what I understand, Worley will be eligible for the draft this year. Is that correct, Bob?
Yes, and he's still not decided as to whether or not to go to the pros as a junior. There's the story of the Bulldogs in the first half. See, they came up with that field goal after a short punt and only a 30-yard drive. Had to punt it away a couple of times. Then got the TD, and that TD was also only 35 yards because that came after the Demetrius Douglas interception. Second down 7. Just inside Gator territory. Hand off to Henderson. Couple of yards to about the 47. Keith Henderson, a junior, 6'2", 215. He's also occasionally been quoted in the newspapers, which you cannot necessarily take to the bank, that he might be interested in professional football before his eligibility is over at Georgia also.
And Henderson is quite a back, although he's lost in the shadow of Worley and Hampton. He's averaging 6 yards a rush, and he's also averaging 18 yards a reception. So he can do both things well.
Third down 5 from the 48-yard line of Georgia. Big defensive play for Florida. They missed the tackle of Henderson in the backfield. Stop him short of the first down, however. Pat Moore with the tackle. Penetration by Florida, but Henderson picked his way past them shy of the first down.
Nicolero reads it, gets a hand on him, but can't bring him down. A move by Henderson. A fine tackle there by Moore.
It'll be 4th and a long yard to go, so the Bulldogs will punt it away. In comes Joey Hester. Hester punted for an average of 42.3 in the first half and had that long 55-yarder that was a key play in the ball game. On the other hand, the Florida punting game averaging only 31 yards per punt. They've got their backup quarterback, Herbert Perry, doing the punting. And the clock ran down there on a delay of game as Georgia took their time. That'll be a 5-yard mark off. 25-second play clock.
Dead ball foul. Delay of game. Offense. 4th down.
Dick Burleson, today's referee.
Now that's kind of unusual for a Georgia team. There's really no benefit of backing up 5 yards unless, you know, maybe you're trying to set something up.
Lester got away another cannon shot. Fair catch. Lomax bobbles it. It is Florida ball at the 9-yard line, and the special teams play of Florida killing them. Really giving them a problem. Lomax had problems. Remember, a win 40-yard punt.
Beautiful punt by Hester, too. He really launched it up there. When this thing starts coming down and it's spiraling, it gets hung in the wind, and it can really start to drift on you, as it did on Tony Lomax there. Fortunately for the Gators, he covered the ball.
And you're hearing that from a former punt return specialist, Tim Foley, who's watched them swirl before. Emmitt Smith trying to get out of the hole. Only a couple of yards. Florida just not able to get it uncranked offensively. What did they do in the first half, you ask? Well, there you see 5 punts, an interception, and the half ended.
And the punts weren't so bad. It's the interception that really hurt them. That gave Georgia the ball in good field position and allowed them to get a chance to score that touchdown.
Out to the 11-yard line. This will be 2nd down 7. Opening moments, second half. Georgia leading 10-0, along with Tim Foley, Bob Neal with you from the Gator Bowl, Jacksonville, Florida. Emmitt Smith. The Georgia defensive line really handling the Florida offensive line. Nobody really moved out of there. Goldberg made the tackle, assisted by linebacker Terry Webster.
Watch number 95, Bill Goldberg, gets his hands on the center, then chases back to the ball. Nice job. Terry Webster closes the door for him. Goldberg there to finish him up. And Paul Giles covering a lot of ground for the big guy.
3rd down 6 from the 13 for Florida. Emmitt Smith, they're going to try to run it out of there again. Smith driving, he does not get there. Terry Webster again there for the Bulldogs. His 7th tackle of the afternoon. They'll spot the ball at about the 17-yard line, and now talk about pressure. Here is the backup quarterback, Herbert Perry, who is averaging 31 yards a punt, standing near his own end line. Carswell is right back at midfield. And this punting game that gave Florida so much trouble last week continues that way today.
If Perry's hit some line drives, I mean, he's not getting much height on the ball. It really hampers your ability to cover that punt.
He had time to get it away and did a better job this time. Carswell at his 45. Florida's down there. Carswell gets it back about 5 yards to midfield, but now Georgia with excellent field position. This happened to Florida against Auburn last week, too. Couldn't get it out of their own end. Not a great punt, 37 yards, and Georgia with good field position. Gators came into this game 3-point underdogs with an offense that just couldn't get on track since the injury to Emmitt Smith. Well, he's back today, and the Georgia defense has been there all afternoon. Wayne Johnson, quick toss out here looking for Arthur Marshall. Missed him by a mile. It'll be 2nd down 10.
And that's what Georgia's got to be able to do. And it doesn't look all that difficult, but that time they couldn't get it done. There was enough room to stick that ball in there. Wayne just a little bit high on the throw. But you have to be able to drag those perimeter people out on 1st down. They can't just be lined up in there right over your tight end and weak side tackle.
Double tight ends for Georgia on 2nd down 10. This is John Thomas in motion. Handoff to Worley. He tried to step over the pile but didn't get gone that time. Only 2 or 3 for Tim Worley. He was tripped up by Trace Armstrong.
Joey Nicoletto has done a nice job all year long on timing that blitz. They run the blitz with the inside linebacker, and he hits it on the snap, and 7 times during the course of the year he has actually made tackles for loss in the backfield before that run has an opportunity to really develop.
You get a feeling this could be a significant play here either way. 3rd down long for Georgia at the 48 of Florida. Let's see what they do. Johnson's going to throw, has pressure. It is complete for the first down. A big pass reception by Troy Sadowski, a gain of 13 yards, and a big play for the Georgia offense.
And this is a big play. It's awfully slow developing. You see Sadowski coming across the field and a timing confusion there. Bartley, the weak side linebacker, Ephesians Bartley, number 44, has got to look up that tight end coming his way. He never really located him. Lang tried to get there to help out, but a first down for Georgia.
You could see that the redshirt freshman Bartley was a little lost and a little late. Hampton, gain of a couple, getting down near field goal range now at the 33-yard line. Georgia has a 48-yard field goal and a 22-yard touchdown pass and leads in this game 10-0 with 8:24 to go in the 3rd quarter.
Play action away, you're a weak side linebacker. You always have to be looking for something coming back. Play action, if you're an interior linebacker, you got to get depth because somebody's going to be coming across the field about 15 yards deep.
Hampton and Henderson in the backfield for the Bulldogs. 2nd down 7 at the 32. Hampton gets a couple to the 30. So we'll have a 3rd down 5 situation for the Bulldogs. It's about a 47-yard field goal from this spot on the field.
Vince Dooley talked about, and George Hafner talked about how this Florida defense has been a little bit harder to prepare for because they're not staying with that 3-man front and 4 linebackers much. They're moving people around more. They're giving different looks. They're adjusting week to week more.
Hummings and Thomas split wide to the left side for the Bulldogs. 3rd and 5. They give it to Hampton. Hampton, a couple of yards, no more. He'll be stopped at the 28. That'd be a 45-yard field goal attempt if Georgia decides to do that. Leading 10-0. John Casey has a 48-yard field goal. He is number 3, the sophomore from Athens, coach's son.
And I was talking to his dad about John. I was at Georgia on Wednesday, and your son's doing well, and he said, geez, you know, just like a coach. See, he doesn't think like a father, he thinks like a coach. Well, I wish he'd have made that one against Kentucky. That's the one we needed.
They'll spot this ball down at the 34, so let's call it a 44-yard field goal. Tally hold.
Fake.
It's a fake. This is Worley. He can throw it, and he does. Intended for Henderson, incomplete. So you got the fake, the pitch, the pass, the incompletion. Vince is saying, take that off the playbook. That's a bad reputation. Vince Dooley will gamble every now and then as he made the agreement on that call. You're watching the SEC on TBS Sports.
Prior to this pass, Tim Worley, the running back from Georgia, was 2 for 2 for 2 touchdowns. And here's his 3rd passing attempt. Casey swings through the ball. Tally hands the ball to Worley. He's got room. Henderson is in the flat. That's who he's going to. Sadowski was down the middle of the field. You can see him coming into the picture now. They might have had a step on it. Vince is into that. He's hoping that it's going to be complete. Tried to put as much English on it as he could. He knew he was taking a chance there, but he's confident in this Georgia defense against this Florida offense right now.
Florida does have it at the 28-yard line. 1st down 10. Now here's Emmitt Smith. He broke it. Smith to the 45-yard line. A gain of 17 yards. Beasley and Mo Lewis combined on the stop.
Okay, let's look at him. John Durden, number 72, turns out. Bromley, the redshirt freshman, a sophomore, closes off the wall to the inside, and here comes Emmitt. They create the seam for him, and that's what most running backs need, room to run.
6:22 to go in the 3rd quarter. Florida showing a little spark on the 17-yard gain by Emmitt Smith. They're going to Willie McClendon this time. He just drives for a tough 5 out to midfield. Wycliffe Lovelace with the stop. Emmitt Smith on the day now, 16 carries for 57 yards.
And the thing that happens to you, Bob, usually when you come into camp in the fall, you're in shape physically, but you're not used to getting beat up. And you need to get used to getting hammered because it drains your energy source. And I'm sure Emmitt is not going to be able to carry the ball 30 to 35 times today.
McClendon hammering inside and closed up very quickly. He gets to the 48-yard line. Douglas with a stop for Georgia. Georgia playing well against the run today. Florida was 2.8 yards per play, counting passing plays in the first half.
And Florida has had trouble running the ball against a good defense like Auburn. I mean, they had 29 rushes for 13 yards. As Kyle Morris looks to the sideline, gets a play.
Morris came off his injury in the Auburn game. He was 1 out of 5 for 11 yards. And he came in here very early today. 3rd down 4. Play fake to Smith. Pass is complete to Smith. 1st down. And out of bounds at the 29-yard line of the Georgia Bulldogs. Guthrie knocked him out of bounds. A gain of 18. 35 yards in a run play and then a pass reception for Smith.
You're going to see Smith come flat. He's going to come flat. He doesn't want to get any depth on that pattern at all. He doesn't want any linebacker involvement. You know, what Lynn Amity is trying to do is take the decisions away from Kyle Morris, set him up, tell him who to throw the ball to.
1st down 10 from the 30 of Georgia. Emmitt Smith again tries the left side. Starts back inside. He's so talented with the cutback run. Inside the 25 to the 24. Bill Lewis of Georgia told me on Thursday. He said, Emmitt, we have to contain him on the outside, but if you contain and lose the gap control, he cuts you right back on the inside. You saw him get some yardage there where none was early, up to the 24-yard line.
Well, he's like any great runner, Bob. They've got the ability, they've got the speed and quickness and size, but he knows how to use his blockers, and he knows where to expect the hole to be.
2nd down 4. Hand off to the fullback. That is 38 McGrady. Short of the 1st down. 3rd and short yardage here.
And the other thing that happens when you hand the ball off to Emmitt Smith, the linemen know that. You know, they respond to that. If we give this guy a little room, he'll go a long way. They're confident in his ability, and so you'd like to think that they work hard on every play, but I think they work harder when Emmitt's got the ball.
Morris, 6 of 11 for 55 yards and an interception on the day. This is 3rd down 2. Double tight ends, Calhoun and McGriff in there for Florida out of the eye. McGrady and Smith in the backfield. And once again, Florida self-destructing. The right side of the line, and Galen Hall told us yesterday, Tim, he said, if we can avoid the self-destructive mistakes on critical plays, I feel we'll be okay. But talk critical. 3rd down 2 at the 22 of Georgia.
Dead ball foul. False start on the offense. Movement of the interior line.
Right side.
3rd down.
Bromley Durden over there, 52 and 72. Just take a look there.
Well, it looked like the tight end moved, too. Watch. Well, boom, boom, boom. I guess Bromley was the first one to pull up. And you're right, Bob. Critical situation. To this point, that's the biggest play in the game for Florida.
And this is the Florida's best drive in 2+ games. On 3rd and 7 now. Morris to throw. It was tipped by Mo Lewis. He was the guy with the quarterback pressure. Number 57 got in there, and that was it. Self-destruction for the Gators.
It looks like Cedric Smith drove him deep. Staroweski trying to get there to help out. But I'll tell you something else. Kyle Morris is setting awfully deep in the pocket. You have to set up and then step up, or else you got to help your linemen out a little bit, or else they're just going to run right upfield past the protectors.
John David Francis is 14 out of 21 on the year. His longest is 47. This will be a 44-yard attempt. It's good, just barely, but that's enough. And it's a 10-3 Georgia lead with 3:18 remaining in the 3rd quarter. We could have a good one developing here. Stay with us. Well, Florida gets a 45-yard drive. 35 of those yards, though, before the field goal come on a run and then a reception by Emmitt Smith. They get the 3 points on the field goal by John David Francis. There's Hampton and Worley. And, Tim, I'm with you. I don't want to kick the ball to either one of these guys. They average over 30 yards per return. I mean, figure it out. They're going to have it in good field position every time on the average.
If I got a choice, if I could take the ball away from them, I will.
See what John David Francis is doing. You see that swirling wind. It continues here up to 30 miles an hour today as a cold front came through. There's some puffy clouds up here, and it's sunshiny at the Gator Bowl, but the wind is doing that to Old Glory.
And you talk about Emmitt Smith, you know, with the run and the pass reception. I mean, that's not unusual. That's what Florida's offense is going to be like. When you got a guy like that, give him the ball.
See what they do. They squib it this time. Picked up by the up back. And he gets all the way out here to the 44-yard line. Couldn't pick up his number there. The right wing will get him as he comes out of that pocket. 13-yard return, and the man with the ball was 85, Chris Broom, a backup tight end, who was the up back on the kickoff return. And they mark him out of bounds at the 42. Now we got the big boys playing, as we said at the beginning of the game. The veteran Georgia offense, the veteran talented Florida defense. And it has been a defensive ball game today. Georgia's touchdown, a 22-yard pass completion, came after an interception. Worley pops it outside. About 7. Jerry Odom with a stop. And there's that Florida defense stacking it up in the middle.
Here's what's happening, Bob. They're lining up with the tight end to the wide side of the field. Richard Fain coming to the wide side of the field. The bigger, more physical cornerback. Then they're changing the tight end into the sideline, running back into the sideline, trying to get Kirk Young involved in the support. And he's a gutty player, but he only weighs 165 pounds.
2:40 to go, third quarter. Second down for Georgia, leading 10-3. Wayne Johnson. It's complete to Henderson. Juggled it, fell down, but he got the first down to the 41-yard line of the Florida Gators.
Little play action back into the sideline, and this is probably Georgia's favorite play pass. There was no one close to Kurt Warner coming across the middle of the field. But that's the play that Keith Henderson catches and takes for an average of 18 yards.
From the 41-yard line of Florida, first down, Bulldogs leading by 7 with 2:13 to go in the third. Hampton. He gets it outside. Lost containment. Lang finally gets him with help from Richardson. Georgia offense turned in those corner defenders, and a gain of 17. Keith Henderson with a very big block on the play.
Watch this. This is going to be... Watch Henderson work here. Now, here's a guy that can catch the ball and run with the football. Watch him work. He's at the fullback. Scott Adams comes out around. Warner getting the block. Watch number 30, Henderson, on Godfrey Miles, a freshman from Carroll City, and boom, knocks him off his feet. And here goes Rodney Hampton, and you don't want to see that happen. And Lang comes over to slow him down. And it's like Richardson was in there to pop it.
Thomas in motion. Worley right down the middle, inside the 30 to the 23-yard line. Moore with the stop.
You know, and Miles is playing for Lang, who is playing for the injured Lewis Oliver. So not having Oliver in there has been a factor today for him, both against the pass and the run. Bill Lang, a very reliable tackler, a real technician on defense.
Minute 25 to go, third quarter. Worley shaken up on that play. Worley has been a workhorse again today. That was his 19th carry for 80 yards, and Hampton's in at tailback with Alfonso Ellis at fullback, number 33. Second and 7 at the 21. Hampton wrapped up at the line of scrimmage. Penalty marker is down also.
Bob, on that play, Florida had both their cornerbacks out of the game. I think Bill Lang was the only defensive back in the game.
They're talking about a face mask against Florida there. Could be another significant penalty if it's a Gator penalty. They had a big procedure penalty to stop a drive earlier.
That's a 5-yard inadvertent face mask against the defense. Will replay second down.
So they move the marker down to the 16-yard line. It will now be second down and 2 for the Bulldogs. Leading 10-3, double tight ends, less than a minute to go, third quarter. Marshall in motion. That's Rain Johnson to the 5-yard line. Joey Nicoletto finally got it. 11 yards for Johnson, set up by the Florida penalty.
And this is something they're going to use in critical situations. And Wayne Johnson may not be the best passer in the world, but he can run that option. When he tucks it and goes, he's a threat upfield.
Tim Worley back in the ball game for the Bulldogs. It'll be Worley and Henderson in the backfield on first down goal from the 5. Georgia leading 10-3. Georgia started this drive on the 42-yard line after the excellent punt return by Chris Broom, their backup tight end. The kicking game giving Florida all sorts of fits in this game today.
In this game, Georgia has stayed on the ground. They've had a couple of fancy plays thrown in there, mixed in a little of sweetness, but mostly it's been Worley, Henderson, Hampton running right at them.
Georgia with 131 yards running the football today. 65 in the air.
And against a defense like Florida, you've got to take advantage of every situation. You're not going to get a whole lot of opportunities to score. They're just too good on defense.
Georgia first and goal at the 5. 82,000 at the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville. 41,000 in orange and blue and 41,000 in red and black. And we've had about an hour and a half timeout here. You see the referee Dick Burleson talking to Vince Dooley.
This is where the Florida defense really has to step up to the plate, Bob. They got to bring their big bat with them. They can't let them into the end zone here. With as hard a time as the Florida offense has had, they can't afford to be behind 17-3. So somebody's got to make a play here. They got to get a turnover somehow. They got to keep them from getting into the end zone.
First and goal from the 5. Double tight ends, full house backfield. Ellis and Henderson with Worley. Johnson tried to keep it. Got a little bit, not much. Godfrey Miles with his 7th tackle of the day. A very banged up secondary unit for the Florida Gators. Injured are Oliver, Watkins. Kurt Young, who started the cornerback, was playing with a slight injury himself. You've got Lang out of position, Curtis White backing up, etc. And that means once they get past that great wall, you've got inexperience back there for the Gators.
Right, but they played well. You've got Kurt Young was a walk-on, Curtis White was a walk-on. They've got a lot of people playing that don't not only have inexperience, but they don't have a lot of ability. You're watching the SEC on TBS Sports.
The final 15 minutes of the Georgia-Florida War of 1988. The Bulldogs up by 7 and threatening again. Second down goal from just inside the 5-yard line. The wind is swirling. The Florida defense with their back to the wall again. They came in here the second-ranked total defense in America behind the defensive unit of the Auburn Tigers. And so far, they've really held Georgia to only a field goal and a desperation touchdown pass after a Georgia interception. So they've played well, but now have a second down goal from the 5.
Florida has one defensive back in the football game. Godfrey Miles, they're calling him the strong safety, but he's got number 98. So guess what he is as you look at the third quarter stats.
Yeah, we've got a clock problem. We haven't had any football here for about 15 minutes. One play, I think, so we apologize. But it's a scoreboard clock problem, which we have seen before here at the Gator Bowl.
So what do you do now? What do you do if you're George Haskell?
You call a clock repairman.
Right. Call a man from Rolex in here. Let's probably got the Coca-Cola clock guy working on it. But anyway, You got one defensive back in the game, so if they split out a wide receiver, Bill Lang is going to have to be the fellow to go out and line up there on. So what do? Do you try to take advantage of that, or do you go with your bread and butter back to the inside? Well, they got 2 tight ends in a football game, so that answers that question.
I'm thinking bread and butter. Second down goal from the 5. That's Henderson in motion. Worley. Not many Florida players out there. Worley does not get into the end zone. He gets to the 1. Bill Lang chased him out. Georgia had the numbers, but couldn't get Worley into the end zone. He got 4 yards. Third down goal from the 1.
Let's watch it again. Henderson coming in motion there. Nicoletto cut off inside. Timmy Polk gets caught off in a block. Mark Murray running, but can't bring him down. You can't bring down Worley like that. In a courageous effort by Bill Lang, keeping Worley out of the end zone.
Third and goal from the 1. Bulldogs up 10-3.
Up over the top.
Worley. He didn't have to go over the top. Bill Lang frustrated, as he was the only Florida defender there, and Worley just ran him down. Second effort, Georgia touchdown. That's Worley's 15th touchdown rushing on the year.
Let's see it again. They're working Georgia's right side. That's Scott Adams and Moe. Good lead block. Lang is there doing everything that he can to keep the big man out, but he's just outmatched, and Worley goes into the score.
John Casey for the point after. It is no good. And that keeps the Florida hopeful fires burning. 16-3 Georgia. And we're the 14:43 to go in this ball game. Plenty of time. You're watching the SEC on TBS Sports. So Georgia gets a 58-yard drive, and Worley takes it in from the 1. Casey misses the point after, and Florida trails by 13 points with 14:43 remaining in the game. Deep backs for Florida are Lomack and Willie Snead. Florida with the wind to their back, at least primarily. You can see that it's rippling the jersey of John Casey down there, and the wind is swirling today. The direction very difficult to call. There's Ned Wilford, the back judge, who's playing a little bit hurt here today. Dick Burleson, the referee, in the right hat. They never do comment enough on the effort by these officials. All we ever hear about and talk about are when they make a mistake on a blown call, but these fellas are running 100 yards up and down the field all day too, and they are not 19 years old.
No, and they are dodging some big folks.
And sometimes, in the case of Wilford, they're not dodging. Ned Wilford, the back judge, with the ice on his cap. There's the kickoff. The line drive comes down to Lomack at the 5. Excellent containment by the Bulldogs. Just an excellent job to cut it down at the 18. Let's go to Craig Sager in our studios in Atlanta.
Thank you, Bob. It's been a tough year so far from Penn State, and now against Maryland, Dennis Spinelli goes in from 3 yards out as the Terps have tied the score. It's 10-all in the third quarter. Back to Bob and Tim.
Joe Paterno with some character building going on there at Penn State, having a rough season. Georgia up here by 13 points with 14:36 remaining in the game. Georgia 200 yards of offense today. Florida with 149. That's total. Emmitt Smith gets a couple and no more. Georgia handled this scoring drive well, just keeping pounding away, going with their bread and butter. 3.5 minutes on the drive, and Johnson with that key play, taking it down there near the goal line.
In one pass reception by Sadowski. And they mixed it in there. They mixed in their nice little play pass. I mean, they throw 60% completion rate. They do well with their passing game.
Second down. The play fake. Morris runs into Smith. Everything going wrong for the Gators. That'll bring out the Florida Bluebirds. A loss of 10 yards as Morris turned around and ran smack dab into Emmitt Smith.
Well, first of all, before the snap, there was some discussion with Kirkpatrick about which side he was supposed to line up on. And somebody goes the wrong way there, and I think this is what really frustrates people. And just have to understand that that's a redshirt freshman, and he's going to make some mistakes.
Still looking at the results of those years of probation for the Gators. The walk-ons, the lack of depth in this football team showing up. They hand it to Emmitt Smith. Check it. That's McClendon, who had just checked into the ball game, out to the 23-yard line. After Smith ran into Morris, they got him out of there for a play, and the freshman doesn't get it back. And Florida, with no punting game to go with them either, now will have to punt it from inside their 25-yard line, and the Bulldogs leading 16-3. You see the punting game is the backup quarterback. There's the story of Florida and their recent struggling offensively.
Of course, the competition has changed recently also. You've got Georgia, you've got Auburn, as opposed to Montana State and Indiana State.
Wobbly end-over-end line drive. Carswell with an excellent opportunity to give Georgia the field position they want at the 43-yard line. Brent Ellis makes the stop for the Florida Gators. 12:22 to go in this ball game. A punt of 32 yards, 12-yard return. Portions of today's game are brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. For all you do, this Bud's for you. Georgia continues with the outstanding field position. The worst they've had this half is at the Georgia 34, but they've started at the Florida 49, at the 42, and at the 43. And now Georgia's field position just continues to be good. Short way to the end zone. Hampton shortening it further as he drives to the 36-yard line. Bartley with a stop. Gain of 8 for Hampton.
Once again, Bob running it back into the short side of the field. You know, one of the things about sending 2 wide receivers to one side of the field back in the old days, you'd have the tight end back on the other side of the formation, and you'd have a cornerback, a little skinny cornerback that runs real fast, but that's not real good on run support, having to support the run.
Hampton right at 4 yards a carry today. Second down 2, Georgia. Hampton pops it for the first down to the 31-yard line. Georgia leading 16-3, 11:37 to go in this ball game, and an injured and battered Florida defense trying to stop this Bulldog ramrod called the running game. Worley and Hampton, and we never mention enough Ellis and Henderson pounding at somebody every play. Thomas and Marshall split wide to the left side. Hampton, Henderson in the backfield. Florida jumped. Jeff Roth came across the line. They'll move it down to the 26. First man across was
Offside. Defense. Repeat it down.
Good job by Todd Wheeler getting the ball snapped here. You see Roth and Armstrong both moving, but they haven't made contact yet. They can still get back, but very alertly, Todd Wheeler snaps the ball, and that creates the penalty.
Now it's first down 5. Hampton stopped at the line of scrimmage. Huey Richardson with the tackle for Florida. And Galen Hall, he's very aware of what the injuries have done, of his lack of depth. But when you read the scores on Sunday morning, most of the fans don't take into account the absence of the injured players, like today Lewis Oliver and Kerry Watkins defensively, and previously Emmitt Smith and Stacy Simmons, and the Florida quarterbacks. Double tight ends for Georgia. Second down 4. Toss sweep. Hampton. Can he get out on the corner? Good. It's a good block. Excellent defensive play by Godfrey Miles. He had offensive contact, but he broke loose and got over there to cut it down.
We saw Henderson against Miles earlier. Now you're going to see it here. Nicoletto sticks it up inside, forces it outside. Richardson chasing, and Godfrey Miles fights off the block of Keith Henderson, and this time makes the tackle. 3rd and 2.
At the 24-yard line. Georgia leading 16-3. Definitely within field goal range, although remember, John Casey missed the point after last time.
I think you're within 4 down range right here.
Ellis, Henderson, and Worley in the backfield on 3rd down 2 at the 24. Looks like a first down, Georgia. Wayne Johnson kept it right up the middle. Odom with the stop. Georgia winning the battle of the line of scrimmage here in this game. Let's see, will they spot the ball back a lot farther than I thought they would. It is short of the first down. He's going to go. I think you're right, Tim. It's 4 down territory. See the time remaining in the game there by the side of the shoulder of Galen Hall.
Even coaches look back at decisions they make, and when we had the Kentucky game, I think if you ask Vince Dooley, he had a 4th down in that game early in the 4th quarter that he might have gone for given the opportunity again.
Penalty markers down. I think Georgia may have moved. Wayne Johnson kept it, but it looked like Georgia was not on the snap count there. Let's see what the referee, Dick Burleson, calls.
Flag. We got a dead ball foul. It's encroachment. Left side in the neutral zone too quick against the offense. 4th down.
See Pat Simmons, number 91, up at the top there.
Just getting off the ball a little bit too early, trying to get an advantage and offside. They used to say offside. We got a dead ball foul, encroachment on the. I say offsides on offense.
High tech. These are the 80s.
That's it.
Here's the 42-yard field goal attempt by John Casey. He misses it. Florida dodges a big bullet there. Georgia was just driving this ball down the field. They started this drive at the Florida 43, but thanks to the Georgia penalty and the missed field goal, it's still a 13-point Georgia lead with 8:46 to go. You're watching the SEC on TBS Sports. Thank you, Craig Sager. The bridge over the St. Johns River, Jacksonville, Florida. Gator Bowl hosting the 1988 Georgia-Florida matchup. First down 10, Florida. Kyle Morris. It's picked off. That's Demetrius Douglas. It went right off the hands of Mark McGriff. All year long, we talk about the maligned Florida quarterbacks. The receivers have not been able to hold onto the ball either. That one was there, and Douglas has 2 interceptions in this game.
Let's watch again. See, Smith drifts out to the right. They're setting up a screen over on the right.
Hit him in the helmet.
I don't know if it came out of the sun or what happened, but
oh my.
He got a hat on the ball.
Now Georgia at the 32, and that defensive unit for Florida right back out there. And they get pounded by Worley. Penalty markers are down. Worley goes all the way to the 9-yard line, but there's a penalty marker way back upfield. I think it's going to go against the Georgia offensive unit. That's the early indication. A gain of 23 by Tim Worley.
The offense.
Lucky break for Florida there. Worley just had a lot of room as this play developed.
You know, there are times when you get mad at the offense for going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. I think there's sometimes the Florida defense wish the Florida offense would take 3 plays.
At least 3 plays.
Yeah.
That's right. This will be first down 20. Georgia back out at the 42-yard line. Plenty of time left in this game if you thought that the Florida offense had an opportunity to move the ball, but they haven't shown much of that today. Johnson fakes it to Hampton. Now he's going to throw it. It is incomplete. Out of bounds on the near sideline. That's Sadowski.
But against LSU, the Gators come away with the win, and it's actually the defense that scores the only touchdown of the game. Richard Fain makes an interception, takes it all away. I don't think Georgia's going to give you that opportunity, though.
They're certainly not going to give Fain the opportunity with all the other substitutes in there in the defensive secondary.
They have not thrown the ball to the wide side of the field at all, except one time a quick pass. But it's trying to work it back into the sideline.
This is second down 20 from the 42. Hampton cuts it back. Doesn't get much. Huey Richardson with the stop for Florida. Clock ticking down now. It'll be inside 8 minutes.
That time it was Jerry Odom on the blitz, and Florida has used that maneuver very effectively. On the snap, that interior linebacker is coming, and they're making contact with Keith Henderson a couple of yards deep in the backfield, and it just disrupts the timing of the play. Usually you're going to blitz to stop the pass. Against Georgia, you're going to blitz to stop the run. You don't want that big machine getting underway. You don't want it getting out of first gear.
3rd down, 19. Hampton does not get the first down by about 6-7 yards, but he does get it down here to the 28-yard line and put it in field goal attempt range again. Gain of 12 yards, and here comes John Casey. He missed an earlier field goal attempt. It was a 42 yards, and this will be a 47-yard attempt for John Casey. That's his long of the year, is 47. Swirling winds here, 7 minutes to go in the game. Georgia tried a fake earlier with Talley pitching to Worley, who threw the pass intended for Henderson. They're going to go ahead and kick this one. Plenty of leg, and it is good. John Casey hits for the second time this year his long on the season of 47 yards, and it's 19-3 Georgia with 6:49 remaining in this game. Big 3 points. 19-3 Georgia leading now following the John Casey field goal. 46 yards officially. Goes past Lomack into the end zone, and Florida will bring it out 1st down 10 from their 20, trailing by 16 with 6:47 remaining. Penalty marker on the football field down there. A lot of college action today. Notre Dame with an afternoon off, so to speak. West Virginia continues their unbeaten ways. Nebraska early over Iowa State. And Auburn having very little problem with Southern Mississippi, although Southern Mississippi's had a pretty good season.
Kenny Hatfield doing well this afternoon at Arkansas.
A lot of people think Arkansas may end up playing Florida State in the Cotton Bowl. Syracuse. Today's a big, by the way, bowl day. Even though the invitations don't go out, things really shake out after the action today, and a lot of the bowls will starting to make their deals. Penalties against Florida. Penn State, Maryland all knotted up. That's 3rd quarter. Personal foul is the penalty against Florida that moves it back here to the 10. Willie McClendon and Willie McGrady in the backfield. Emmitt Smith has played today. 18 carries, 65 yards. McClendon drives it out to the 15. Demetrius Douglas. And let's go to Atlanta, our studios, and Craig Sigler.
Thanks, Bob. A big game in the SEC. LSU, Alabama. Philip Doyle appears to hook this field goal attempt. He does, but right into a crosswind. It goes through the uprights. Bama leads 3-0. Back to Bob and Tim.
Thank you, Craig Sager. 6:20 remaining here. 2nd down, 15, Florida. From their 15. Florida's field position has been simply horrendous all day long. Georgia's has been outstanding. Kyle Morris made a tough catch for McClendon. Did he stay in bounds? Yes. Nice run by McClendon out here to the 37. Beasley and Hargett combine on the stop finally, but McClendon, first of all, made a good catch and then made a 22-yard gain out of it.
Yeah, this was the first play of the game for Florida. A screen pass that was unsuccessful because Aaron Chubb did a nice job defensively, and sometimes as McClendon will tight ropes the sideline there and takes it back inside, sometimes a coach will get away from calling a play simply because it didn't work, and it was kind of an inadvertent mistake that made it not work the first time.
Morris with 2 interceptions, 78 yards. He's 50% completions today. Nice grab by Lomack all the way to the Georgia 41-yard line.
Morris pass complete for Lomack.
Let's watch Tony Lomack work here. He had 3 nice catches last week against Auburn, coming to the inside. No receiver likes to stretch out like this. He's coming underneath. He's supposed to be coming underneath those defensive backs. Morris throws it up in the air, and Lomack, good concentration. That ball had to be like a kamikaze coming out of the sun. Nice catch by Tony Lomack.
Gain of 23 yards. First and 10 at the Georgia 41. 5:14 remaining. Morris going into double coverage. His receiver fell down. Terrence Barber in the game. Barber, by the way, is playing with a puncture wound on his hand. He's a player that Galen Hall likes. He's a sophomore from Auburndale, Florida, and Galen said he believes this is a big-time young man here, but he's playing with a puncture wound he received in practice off somebody's helmet or equipment.
Got hit with a face mask at the end of the Auburn game. Inadvertent contact by Ben Smith. You know, Barber was claiming interference, both of them going for the football.
Second down 10. Emmitt Smith's back in there for the delay. A couple of hard yards. Tripped up by Aaron Chubb. To about the 38-yard line. Clock ticking down. 4:51 remaining. Georgia has won 12 out of 16 of the last 16 of the meetings between these clubs, just dominating Florida. Big column in the Jacksonville newspaper yesterday by one of the writers about Vince Dooley, even though he's had all these victories and the dean of SEC coaches, etc., said, yeah, he hasn't beaten the good teams except for Florida. And Vince has, in fact, beaten some good teams, of course. Morris had Emmitt Smith wide open at the 30 and threw it right into the face of Bill Goldberg, 95 of Georgia.
You know, they may not put their hands up in practice, but they're going to put them up in the game. Good job by Goldberg disengaging himself from an offensive lineman to knock that ball down. That's just good awareness there by the junior.
Duke struggling today against Wake Forest, and that's being played at Duke. Fourth down, and of course, trailing like this, Florida will attempt to go for it. Fourth down 7 from the 38. Morris facing only a 4-man rush. It is complete over the middle for the first down. And the receiver is Tony Lomack, tackled by Mo Lewis, gain of 16. Georgia really playing kind of a prevent defense here.
Yeah, they're playing man-to-man underneath, Bob, and Lomack beats Lewis inside, and that's where you don't want to let him get. Morris lands him to the ground. We saw Lewis have a great game against Kentucky, intercepted a couple of passes. A good pass defender for a big guy.
Morris with 116 yards in the air now. They're coming too little too late, however, for Florida faithful. Morris, deep drop, and he bobbled the ball as he was being hauled down. It is still live. It is Georgia ball at the 45. Lovelace is the man with the ball. The quarterback pressure came from Demetrius Douglas as Kyle Morris, Tim, you had pointed it out early, just drops back deeper and deeper, and it's a big circle for that pressure. 23-yard loss and Georgia ball.
Play action fake. In this time, he just doesn't get the ball put away, trying to desperately to scoop it up. Durden there to get the ball, but slips out of his midst into the midst of our favorite name in the SEC, Wycliffe Lovelace.
You're watching the SEC on TBS Sports. Florida border war. You see the Florida red, orange and blue, and then the Georgia red and black if your set's tuned properly. If not, you just saw another football stadium. Rodney Hampton with a couple. Georgia will just run this out now. 3:47 left in the game, and a 16-point lead by the Bulldogs. Florida fans have already gone to the tailgate parties, or party may not be the right word, but the Georgia fans are going to get every second out of this.
Hey, you know, our producer, Skip Ellison's from Georgia, and he's also given us the script for this play-by-play here.
I noticed that Skip Ellison sounds very alert and bright down there and bushy-tailed, excited. Haven't heard from our director, Tom Smith, though, who's wearing his orange and blue. Or he was. I don't know if he's still got his shirt on or not. Hampton with a 49, and down he goes. Well, Georgia, with this certain win coming up here now, will go to 5-1 in the conference. Remain right in the thick of it. It comes all down to that Auburn game next week. as far as which one of those teams will move on. It's almost like a tournament for the top 5 teams. You advance to another round against the teams. The schedule is set up so that they're all playing each other. Alabama and LSU today. Georgia, Auburn next week. This was Florida's last gasp here today. Florida will fall to 3-3 in the conference, and this will be the 4th loss in a row for the Gators. This is Worley. They won't catch him. 51 yards for Worley. Touchdown number 16 on the year, and now Worley has 134 yards rushing on the day.
You give him the ball, and you give him the ball, and they give him the ball, and Jerry Odom gets pinned inside, and then that was it. Kurt Young over pursues, and no one lays a hand on him. You don't want to give this rascal a whole lot of room. He didn't need much. What an athlete he is.
And he's a comedian. We understand he's the resident Georgia comedian. He does an impression of Eddie Murphy and even an impression of Vince. And believe me, you got to be good to get away with doing an impression of your head coach. With 2:21 to go in the ball game, Georgia laying a whipping on the Florida Gators, 26-3. Well, the Florida turnovers have been a big story of this game. Georgia has converted 3 Florida turnovers into 17 points and the 26-3 lead. Now 2:21 remaining in the game. And it is quite a sight here at the Gator Bowl as we look across from the press box, as we showed you just moments ago. The Florida side of the stadium is about half empty, and the Georgia side is just packed. Savoring every moment. Florida will be back to try it again next year, and the faithful will believe again. Out to the 25 comes Snead.
One of the great things about doing this game, Bob, though, is you never have a silent crowd. Somebody's going to be happy. Half of this field is going to be vocal. Half of these fans are going to be vocal all the time.
2:19 remaining in the ball game. The Florida Gators, as we take a look down the road, Florida will play at Kentucky, and believe me, that is not a week off for anybody next week. Kentucky, very good football team. They're in action at home this weekend against Vanderbilt, and then Florida after that has to play at Florida State. So, I mean, I'm talking a dark tunnel here for the Gators. A little confusion in the backfield, and Kenny Stevens, a redshirt freshman, in there at tailback to clean up. Georgia, on the other hand, goes to Auburn next week for the game that'll determine which one of those teams will remain in the chase for the Southeastern Conference Championship, and then Georgia will finish at home on the 26th of November versus Georgia Tech. So Georgia looking in very good shape for a successful football season.
Vince Dooley is 25 years as a head coach, and to last that long, you got to surround yourself with some good people, and he's got coaches on his staff that have been with him a long time and played for him here at Georgia.
Morris completes the pass out to the 30-yard line, just a gain of about 5 yards on that. It's Tony Lomack who has the ball, and Demetrius Douglas has had a whale of a game defensively for Georgia. A couple of interceptions, 8 tackles now in this game. We're talking about the Southeastern Conference standings and what's down the road for you. Here's what it looks like. Going ahead and counting this game is over, which it is, except for the clock running down. Georgia moves to first place as of this moment. Alabama and LSU locked up over there in Tuscaloosa this afternoon. Morris completes this one to Kenny Stevens, and Stevens down to the 36-yard line. Penalty marker also on the field. The Bulldog defense has played well here today, and that's one that Tim, you really, to be very honest and objective about it, you've got to give half the credit to the Georgia Bulldog defense for playing well, and half the blame to the Florida offense, which has continued to sputter despite the re-entrance in the lineup of Emmitt Smith.
But there's Bill Lewis, and you know, he's been the coordinator here since 1980, done a great job for a number of years, and just hasn't had many people on defense this year, and they struggled through, but week by week they're getting better. They need to be better next Saturday against Auburn.
First down on the face mask call against Georgia. Kyle Morris threw it into coverage there. It was broken up. Allen in on the play for Georgia. John Allen's a redshirt freshman. 42 seconds to go in this game. Next week, here's what it looks like in the SEC. We are not sure which game we will be bringing you on TBS. We'll make that announcement either Sunday or Monday. Georgia plays at Auburn, Florida at Kentucky, LSU at Mississippi State. LSU trying to hang in there with the game against Alabama today. Alabama will host Southwest Louisiana out of the conference. Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Vanderbilt goes to Army. It'll be at one of those locations. Morris cleaning it again. Kyle Morris is going to rack up some completions here today, but they're coming very late in the ball game, and Tony Lomack is going to get himself a bunch of receptions. But in the first half of this ball game, not one Florida wide receiver had caught a pass. Alabama in front early at Tuscaloosa.
It's been since September 17th since they've thrown a touchdown pass, Bob. They missed Simmons a lot. Stacy Simmons, when he went down against LSU, they haven't really recovered from that blow yet.
Kyle Morris picked up that loose ball, and it's incomplete. Clock down to 7 seconds. Well, Vince Dooley brought his team in here somewhat banged up themselves. They were 3-point favorites in this ball game. Clock has ticked down now to 3 seconds remaining in the game, so there'll have to be one more play in the game.
Yeah, the Georgia players, they were listening to the crowd countdown. Look at the clock, fellas. They got to be happy with their effort today.
Well, Tim Worley continued to be that's not Tim Worley, by the way, although he ran like a horse. That's for sure. He looks about that strong in the eyes of many defenders. Worley with 135 yards today and 2 touchdowns. And he's been, no question about it, the key player for this Georgia football team. Kyle Morris just throwing it up for grabs here on the last play of the game. And it is incomplete. And this ball game is over for 1988, and Georgia laid a real old-fashioned whooping on the Florida Gators, 26-3. We'll be back here at the Gator Bowl, and for our final comments in just a moment, please stay with us.